steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing he's going to say can make that any better.
Yeah, nobody. No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home.
Hello and welcome to DRS FC, an F1 podcast by soccer nerds. I am a soccer nerd. My name is André Carlisle, and I have three soccer nerds with me to talk about a race. Y'all remember the F1 season? Y'all remember that? It started, it was a whole thing, and then it just said, nah, never mind, because our country's stupid. Anyway, Kyle, how are you?
I'm good. I have mainly been playing Pokemon Champions, so I found that in between the races, I just decided to get rage baited by probably 20-year-olds that do nothing else but play this game. That is how I spent my break. So I'm glad there's F1 coming back.
See F1, look what you've done to Kyle. Look what you've done to Kyle. Deepti, how are you?
I'm good. It feels like the start of a brand new season. Like, I don't know. You know, we'll talk about it, but with such a long break, I feel like those last 3-4 races just didn't even happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like they were preseason. It feels like the season starts now, which is a weird thing in F1 because that's not how it works.
Yep.
Donald, how are you doing?
I'm good. I need to pack because I'm going to a race this weekend. Not this one, not involving cars, involving horses. I'm going to the Kentucky Derby. So, wrong weekend for F1 to just be like, hey, we're back, but we will fight through it.
I thought you listen, you are Mr. Miami. I thought you were going down. I was going to say, you didn't tell us. I'm about to be so mad at you, but it's just the Kentucky Derby.
Look, we don't tell people when we go to Tootsie's. We just end up there. And you find out after the fact.
What happens in Tootsie stays in Tootsie.
I'm also mad, though, because it's like, we'll have this race, and then we have another break.
Another break, yeah.
Like, this is dumb.
Yeah,
at least we have a sprint this weekend too. So
we do, which is another wild thing too, because we're regulations changed, or at least were tweaked. Maybe didn't change, but there are rules and some things that were tweaked over the break as well, which we may get into if we can understand all the technical jargon. But then it's only one practice session and then a sprint race, a sprint qualifying sprint race, and then all of that. So yeah, it's going to be a bit chaotic. Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about the Miami International Autodrome. It is 5.412 kilometers. That is 3.36 miles. In the Grand Prix, they do 57 laps around that track. The race lap record was set by one Max Verstappen in 2023. He may just grace us again with his presence, even though he's been doing some real racing during the break. He set the track record with 1 minute, 29.708 seconds. Donald, can you give us a quick history of this track?
Yeah, well, this racetrack is not really a track. It's a temporary street circuit that was obviously set in the complex of Hard Rock Stadium, which is the home of the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes. It kind of goes through the parking lot, if you will. And so there's definitely some turns that are kind of manufactured out of literal grass and dirt into a funky little turn. The great thing about this is because the way that Hard Rock is situated, and also, of course, this is now a venue for the World Cup because we're all soccer fans. They have elevation changes. So turns 13 and 16 kind of go uphill, downhill because of the exit ramps. So you get a little bit of elevation in this one, similar to like a Coda, that first turn, the first straight up the hill. But it's not the worst track, but it's also not a track, but for like 5 days a year. So these guys, funny enough, like this has become one of the events on the calendar that racers like. We haven't pinpointed why. Maybe it's the nightlife. We'll get into that. But I think it's interesting because this track is one of the tracks that allows for some racing and also has one of the longest straightaways in all of Formula One.
I love that it's like, why do very wealthy, young, attractive people want to go to Miami? Who can tell? All right, Kyle, let's look back at 2025 before we look ahead to 2026. So what happened last year?
The whole weekend was weird. To start with the sprint race, Kimi had gotten pole, so that was a big shock. Unfortunately, he did not win the sprint race. That was Lando Norris, who got a beneficial, lucky safety car happening. He finished first. Oscar finished second. Lewis finished third. So we're like, okay, Lewis is back. Everything's good with Ferrari. George was fourth. Lance Stroll ended up fifth. And I think that was the weirdest part. This was also when Lance was the only person at Aston Martin capable of driving. But there was plenty of penalties. Verstappen got a 10-second penalty. Ollie Behrman had a 5-second penalty. Alex Albon had a 5-second penalty. Liam Lawson had a 5-second penalty. Alonso, Carlos Sainz did not finish the race. And Charles Leclerc didn't even start. He had crashed. And I think he crashed on like the recon lap. So it was very chaotic.
Oh no, that's called an Oscar already.
So that was the sprint. And then in the main race, Oscar Piastri won. He had a good battle with Max Verstappen. Once he got past Max, he was kind of just far and away ahead of everyone. Lando Norris finished second. And then George Russell finished third. And let's just say George was 37 seconds behind the McLarens. It was not even close. Also in that race, we had the fun situation of Lewis basically crashing out on his team, telling him to have a tea break, asking if he should let Carlos Sainz pass. It was a whole battle with him and Leclerc. So that happened. Communication was not great. Kimi finished 6th, Charles finished 7th, and we had DNFs from Liam Lawson, Gabby Bordello, Ollie Behrman, and Jack Doohan in his final race for Alpine. So it was just a weird weekend with the rain, everyone crashing out, everyone actually crashing in their cars, penalties galore. It was a wild weekend.
Yeah, it feels like we might be in for something maybe similar. We'll see.
I need them to channel the chaos of this PSG Bayern match. I think we all have it on the side right now. Just glancing. It's possibly 5-4 now.
It's outrageous.
It was 3-2 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not a joke.
No, not at all. This is proper football right here. This is like they're NWSLing on a main stage. This is like up and down. My athletes versus your athletes. Let's see what happens. This is bonkers. But okay, back to F1. As Donald mentioned, this is a manufactured track. And when you were saying that, I was also wondering, like, I wonder if we'll be able to tell the turn that Tyreek Hill got arrested at. So that'll be interesting since it's built around Hard Rock. And wasn't he arrested like right outside of Hard Rock?
He was arrested. He wasn't arrested on the grounds. He was arrested just as he was entering the grounds, so it's not a part of the track, unfortunately.
Okay, well,
Close enough.
Unfortunately, that milestone won't be there for the drivers. But it is a 19-turn track. There are 3. It says in the dock DRS zones, but we know that DRS is dead. DRS is now active.
DRS never dies.
DRS lives. Zombie DRS is what we'll call it. There are 3 of those zones for the active arrow. Right. But we made the joke earlier about drivers liking this track, or at least liking coming to Miami. And there are some street tracks that I think are far and away worse. I think there are some street tracks that are by far and away better. So, Donald, what are your actual thoughts about this particular, the track of it all?
Well, I think, again, I really like the long straightaways. I think that's just an opportunity. And especially with this long straightaway, we saw something similar, I guess, when it was in China, where they have the 2 long ones. This one's interesting because it goes right into a turn after about almost a mile and a half. It's one of the longest ones in Formula One. And then you get into a series of turns where you can harvest your battery under these new regulations. So I'm curious to see how people play the straightaway, knowing that they can harvest more juice for the back half of the track. And then kind of coming along, turns 11 and turns 10 and 11. You have that similarly long straightaway as well, where you can kind of figure out how to do the strategy. Now, I will say this: we still have not extended this thing to Tootsies. I don't know why. It wasn't a hard ask for them to do that. So the fact that they have insisted on not doing that, despite all these regulations, I think is just a travesty to all of Formula One fans around the world. But we will deal. We will suck it up, and we will just tough it out for this particular race, and maybe they will address it next time.
I mean, there are serious liability problems when it comes to extending a track to Tootsies. I think for drivers and for everybody involved, this is it's probably a good idea. It's one of the better decisions I think that they have made recently.
What liability? The liability is on the driver. Do they want to continue driving or do they want to get out? It's a question they'll have for 59 laps?
I do think a team like Aston Martin, whose car probably won't finish, it'd be very useful to extend it to Tootsies
Exactly.
because then they can make a pit stop literally there and then come back out.
Yeah.
Just like in
Tootsies
Australia.
Still a
runs a
little bit of
shuttle.
time, you know.
Tootsies runs a free shuttle on game days. So Aston Martin could drive. They could get beat, like Lance Stroll could get beached right outside, and they won't need the safety car. The Tootsies van will take them right back.
Maybe they could just drive the Tootsies van, and maybe that'll be better than the car they actually built.
It'll finish.
Right.
It'll finish.
Did we hear the latest scandal / investigation? I think in Milan, where they have uncovered a high-end luxury prostitution ring, which now may involve an F1 driver. And they don't know if they haven't said if it's a former driver, a current driver on the grid, but F1 driver plus several Serie A football players.
I did see that rumor and did not want to, it wasn't attributed to anything, so I didn't go. But I will say, kind of getting back to Aston Martin, the great thing about them coming to the United States for the first time this year is like maybe 4 miles away, I want to say, there is a Costco. If Aston Martin's car is going to conk out, Costco has a go-kart that is an Aston Martin themed go-kart for like $330 that is on sale. And I know that will finish. So if they what they can do is just, they may have to go, figure out a way to get around Park Farm. But if their car's not going to get the full mileage out of it, they can just run with the go-kart. They won't even have to change the livery on it. So they have options.
I love the fact that like Aston Martin's just become like a massive joke. Given all they assembled
until they complete a race.
It's wild. It is wild how far they've fallen, and we'll see. Maybe they did some work over the break, but given the depth of their issues, I'm not expecting much more than what we've seen. Maybe I'll be surprised. Who knows? Deepti, your thoughts about the track itself?
Yeah, it's not necessarily my favorite, but I think in general it's a pretty good racing track. The fun bits are what's in between the long straights. And I think in particular, I think it's turns 14 and 15, that area is probably one of the most tricky parts because you can get that really right or really wrong. And if it's really wrong, then you're kind of slow for the straight coming after that. So it's for me, it's good. Hopefully, I don't know how much they're going to be able to overtake. Maybe we'll see if we have as much of the yo-yoing happen on this track. I wouldn't expect as much as what we've seen in the last few races, but there's potential.
Yeah, I do think that thinking about Ollie Behrman's crash, at Suzuka and how that happened, that was on a track that was an actual track. It's got wide enough lanes. This is one of the street tracks where you're going to have pretty narrow walls as well. So I'm interested to see how that works, especially if the tweaks that they made to regulations doesn't change some of the massive variances and closing speeds that caused that crash in the first place. So that is something I think to keep an eye out on. Kyle, thoughts on the track?
I still don't love it. I feel like they just added Miami to get money, and then it was like, okay, we also have Vegas, so it's kind of like there was no need to have both Miami and Vegas, and at least with Vegas it seems the racing on the track has been better. We'll see how it goes with Miami. I think the nice part of adding the rain in the mix makes it more intriguing, but I think I'm still trying to get used to the track itself, just because it doesn't feel like it's an F1 race. It just feels like they're just driving around through a parking lot and calling it a race.
Well, I mean, that's not far from the truth, unfortunately. And I kind of agree. I kind of lead more towards you because I think you just need more. You need wider lanes. You need more space. You have it's like the ingredients are there. You got your straights. You got your little chicanes and your really technical part that you have to kind of weave your way through at 20 miles per hour. You really got to slow down and go before you get on that back main straight or that back straight. And those elements are there. but the overtaking, like the racing opportunities, are really just that. The waiting for the long straights and hoping that you're close enough. Can use active aero, can use boost, can use override, whatever, or overtake and pass somebody. And we'll see if it ends up being that boring. I think one of the things about these new regulations and teams not really knowing how to maximize their cars yet, it has led to some interesting and fun moments in battles, 1v1 battles on track. And so maybe we'll still be in a bit, there will still be a bit of that in Miami. But okay, before we start talking about things that we're going to watch or excited to watch, Deepti, I think you have some tire talk for us.
Yes, tire talk. So Pirelli's gone with the 3 softest compounds: C3 for the hard, C4 for the medium, and C5 for the soft. It's not a super high deg track. It's a quite low drag, so the softest compounds will be good. I expect if it stays dry, they're probably just going to do like a one-stop race with mediums and hards, but they are expecting at least rain and storms on race day on Sunday itself. So we might need inters on that day. Probably not wet tires. I think Pirelli also said like this track dries out really quickly, and so was it last year that it started raining, they started on inters, and then in the sprint people pit to like switch to slicks.
Yeah.
So in the main race, I'm sure that would happen too if it does start raining.
And it was the gamble of some people doing it earlier than others and taking the risk of, hey, us being on slicks as it's clearing up, as opposed to waiting for it to completely stop. Because Miami, it's like a faucet, right? Like every day it rains, and especially when it's going to be close to 90, if not 90 degrees, I think is what it's forecast on race day. You're going to get storms. It's going to be around 4 o'clock, which is right when this race is supposed to start. So I would not be surprised if they have a delayed start. I wouldn't be surprised if they have to start on inters, and I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a stoppage in the middle because of lightning. That's going to happen if it starts raining. And I also think the strategy of these teams is going to be interesting with regards to whether they do slicks or whether they do inters to start this race if it is indeed raining, because at a certain point it's going to stop. The sun is going to come back out, is going to get right back to being 90 and humid, and this racetrack will clear up very quickly, and the people who have the slicks will have the advantage.
Yeah, I was gonna say, looking at the weather, and this is Apple, so sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. Friday, 87 degrees and clear. Saturday, 90 degrees and clear. Sunday, 87 degrees, 70% chance of rain. And so, yeah, like you said, Donald, as well, given those temperatures, you can add on maybe another 30 or 40 degrees in terms of track temperature. And so, yeah, once you get that, the rain, once it stops, I think we've all been to Miami before. It's just like it rains. It's like steamy out there. It's real muggy. And then you look up and it's like there's nothing, like dry as a bone. Like nothing. Well, maybe not dry as a bone. All the water's in the atmosphere, but like it's dry on the ground at least. So yeah, I think if it rains, that switchover will be really, really important to see who nails it, who understands Miami the best. So that'll be interesting. Okay. Let's take a quick break and get into the things that we're all interested to see in this race now that F1 is finally back. All right, here we go. Let's go into the things that we're excited to watch. Off top, I'm just going to blanket cover all of us and just say, I'm glad we get to watch a race. Like, it's been cool thinking about other things. We did some cool, like, fun pods and whatnot, but just like, I got excited about these regulations, about the racing that we've seen. Ferrari looking good. Kimi overtaking George is looking like he's got a better handle on the car. Like I've been excited for the season, and have a whole month where nothing happened was just such a buzzkill. So I'm just glad it's back. So Kyle, let's start with you. Your thing to watch.
So Oscar Piastri did not have a good first 2 races. Crashed in his home race. And then the McLaren wouldn't start in China. But when he did race, it was pretty good. He even said, when we actually start these things, we do a good job. And I think it's going to be, can he build off of that? Because there was a very good chance he could have won that race in Suzuka had the safety car just been timed differently or strategy. It was more luck where he could have potentially been out of winning it. So is he going to be able to build on that? Is the car going to be reliable enough that it can allow him to fight? And let's remember last year, Oscar ran away with winning the main race with no problems whatsoever, even with battling Max. And granted, the cars are going to be different. The McLaren is not as good as it was last year, but I think this could be where Oscar can really build off of Suzuka. And if he can do that, this could put him in a battle for the title, because granted, it's not, he still has some work to do, not getting points in the first races, but this could be a good starting point for him to make a charge.
Yo, if McLaren, either one of those drivers can get back into like the driver's race, that will be bonkers, because it felt like Mercedes, when you're looking at constructors, Mercedes is almost already gone. But you look at the drivers, because of Kimi's growth and how he's done, he has a narrow margin over George now. And it's like they both are kind of like now sharing these points. So very interesting to see if somebody else ends up going on a run. Maybe it's Ferrari, maybe it's McLaren, and Mercedes kind of gets bumped down the order a bit. Maybe this can become a true like to the wire drivers championship race. So I'm kind of interested to see how that happens. And yeah, it helps when you finish races. So hopefully Oscar can do that. Donald, what are you looking forward to?
So I have two things. The first thing is very simple. What cars took advantage of the break? This was not like the summer break where there were no rules on how many days you had to be away from the car, how many days you had to shut down. Teams could work on things during this artificial break. So I'm wondering who took advantage of that. But the real thing is, guys, we're DRSFC. We like the fashion. Cadillac livery. Cadillac has brought out a new one. It's a very subtle change. They obviously added, they have the black and white half and half car, but they also have put the USA kind of motif on the tail fin and the tail wing. And I think it's great. Again, it's just a subtle thing, but it's also them kind of shooting a shot across the bow at Haas, saying, hey, there are two American teams now, and we're the most American of the two. And so I know Haas likes to go all out for Austin, but this is one where where Cadillac said, hey, we're in Miami, we're back at home, let's make it a home race. And I like that they're embracing that. I also think Audi came out with some incredible merch. They obviously, their merch is being run by Adidas, and they came out with some Miami themed merch for this week. So I like that Miami has become a race where a lot of teams decide to implement some slight changes to the liveries, special edition merch, things like that. Again, a lot of them like coming to Miami for obvious reasons, but I think also the fashion part of things and the aesthetics of Miami makes for this to be one of those high profile races.
Yeah, I will say I think it's important that the teams lean into certain locations, and Miami has such a vibe, has such a distinct like aura about it when it comes to just vibrant colors and all of that. You can really have some fun with your branding. And then I go back to when we reviewed the liveries and how disappointed I was to see the saucelessness of Europe come out when they were assessing the Cadillac livery. It's still a good ass looking livery, and they've shown that it can be versatile too. So this looks really cool as well. You know me, I'm not Mr. Stars and Stripes. I don't really like a lot of American iconography. I'm not really here for it. I think it's a little clunky. You see the U.S. women's national team and the men's team running around in those wavy red. They look awful to me. I hate those. But
I disagree. I disagree.
Really?
I understand. Because
I'm with André.
The Waldos, which are also bad. But so we can get in an argument later off the pod. But I do think that Cadillac livery has looked good from the start, and the fact that they're doing more things with it, and you can tell it ain't like they're washed out with the overall design. You can tell the design elements are still in there. Yeah, that's a good looking livery, and it looks awesome what they've done.
It's no coincidence to me that the two constructors that came out with the two best liveries that all of Europe hated has come out with a livery that they once again hate, but I think is cool, and they came out with merch that they think is stupid, but I think is awesome. This is just continuing the theme here, the thesis. You're backing up our thesis here. I could just say, Your Honor, the plaintiff's rests. Get him up on my face with the sausage.
Yeah, I'm not here for taking fashion advice from. You know what? Like when it comes to maybe like Milan or something like
I
that,
was gonna
like
say
high
Milan's the only
fashion.
place where if someone says, "Hey, this is not it in terms of fashion," I would actually listen to them. That's
Right.
it. Just
And
Milan.
I do think there is something subtle about maybe like Parisian fashion. It's more so skewed towards
Fine.
women's fashion. So like I'll give them that. But when it comes to like branding, incorporating branding, and listen, we in late stage capitalism. Ain't nobody doing it like us.
I don't want to hear someone from London
we
complaining
could
about
Yeah,
fashion.
exactly. Like French, Italian is very different than English, and yeah, we're not going to
Yes.
listen to them.
Yeah, correct. And so, yeah, when it comes to incorporating all that stuff, having a brand identity, making it look interesting and unique and all of that, yeah, fortunately and unfortunately, in some cases, we know what looks good and we know what doesn't. And so, yeah, I think that Cadillac livery looks good. Anyway, thank you, Donald, for that. And we can argue about the Waldos later. Deepti, your thing to watch during the race
Yes.
or during the race weekend.
I kind of cheated because I have multiple things. But number one, can Lewis break into the top 5? Like this race has only been going on for 4 years, but Lewis has only ever come 6th in 3 of them, and then 8th in the 4th, I think. And so, is this Ferrari car good enough now for him to be able to break into that top 5, or are there still enough contenders above him? We'll see. I think Lando might be his like closest fighter right now, but I'm not sure. So that's number one. And then before we talk about like the new regulation stuff, you mentioned that we were just talking about fashion, design, bringing more color to Miami. Mercedes has done just that, and they have gone with all purple suits. It's giving Barney. It's giving Grimace. It's giving
No.
Tinky Winky, Waluigi.
Winky.
So it's apparently some collab with like I think a Brazilian virtual banking. I'm not sure. I didn't really look too much into it. I just saw the purple and was like, whoa. But if it is Brazilian, interesting that they didn't go for it in Sao Paulo, but they want to bring color to Miami. Fine. I do enjoy that they are going for something a bit different, but it was just a bit jarring to see initially going from like the black and green to purple.
Yeah, that is a little bit bold. And yeah, Barney, Grimace, oof. That's all I got to say about that. Yeah, I really am interested to see, and I really do hope that broadcasts can get to some of the rule changes or at least tweaks, because I think trying to read this, so like they're deep in the minutia now. Like these are the things that do matter a lot, and I did kind of hear that. So what is it? The F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali, is that his role? Is he CEO of F1? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
So like I've heard a couple interviews with him, and he's just being like super Pollyanna. Everything's great. They're like, I don't know, and I know that's part of a CEO's job, but he references all these surveys that they do and all of that, and I'm just like, you need to tone it down just a notch, because there like are some things to consider that you shouldn't just be looking at. Maybe like the 10% or 20% of people who aren't like deep into it in terms of like the technical knowledge, because he said that people aren't interested in the technical aspect of the sport, and I think every single one of us here disagrees vehemently. That is one of the things that was really like the infusion of data in soccer has like grown a deeper appreciation in what certain players do and how certain teams operate. And I think there are a lot of parallels to F1. And so people want to know, like engineers, why would, I think the casual fan, even, why would somebody spend $500,000 bringing like Adrian Newey, an engineer, to their team? Right. Like, I think those are important. These are characters that are really important behind the scenes. And if you have technical directors, if you have, the CEOs like Zach Brown, if you have them front facing, it's important for them to have a base level of knowledge and understanding about what they do and how to build a successful team and what it looks like technically behind the scenes, especially as the seasons are long. This one will only be 22 races, but it's still a lot longer than what seasons have been in the past. And you'll see there's always an upgrade, like an update war battle between the teams. And so if you don't care anything about the technical part of it, suddenly you're just going to be sitting there and be like, hey, where'd McLaren come from? They weren't doing good, but like people want to know these things. What did McLaren do? What have they focused on? What was going on with their car that they fixed? How is it helping the drivers get more out of the cars on race days? Like, I think these things are really unique things. And I get a little concerned when I hear the CEO of F1 just being like, whatever, just put cars on track, have them pass one another, go round and round in circles, and we spray champagne. It's like, whoa, you should have a lot deeper like desire for people to get deeper into the sport, because that's how people stick around. So it's just weird commentary from him.
Yeah, I don't like that. It seems like they think the average viewer is a little bit stupider than they think, which is not true.
It's also because a lot of these new viewers are American, and so the whole thing about Americans being stupid is just a prevalent thing that we deal with from Europe. And so, but I think that's really I think it's really misleading, because if they look at where the Americans are getting interested, there's a lot of F1 soccer crossover. I mean, hello, this is us, but also there's a lot of other crossover, and people are interested in the minutia of the sport, and some of it is driver profile driven, like wanting to follow them on social, like thinking they're funny personalities or being attracted to them, think they're physically attractive and all of that. There are like pockets of that, but those things don't get people to watch a 50-something lap race every single weekend. It's a deeper understanding that get people to stick around and watch a full race weekend after weekend and follow the full season and what's going on with it, that we can see on race days, and also that we read about, listen to podcasts, and hear about what's going on behind the scenes. So it felt like a which is a weird stance for a CEO to take, but it felt like a rudimentary, like just like covering up of the things that make the sport deep and interesting. And it's just like, hey, we go racing, and racing's fun, right, guys? And it's like, this is F1. It's supposed to be a little bit more than that, is it not?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And I think I kind of spoiled what I'm looking forward to, but basically, like Donald said, this has been, in the summer, you can't do certain things on the car at all. Like, you have to shut your factory down. People have to go home. Like, they mandate a break. You cannot do anything with your car. You actually will get fined. You'll, like, if they find out, like, you've done anything, they're serious about it. It is an enforced break. This was a break that was only forced because our country decided to want to start bombing people. So, like, that's the reason why this happened, which meant that it wasn't an official break, which meant that there could be work on cars. Now, this is where I think, and again, back to the technical aspect of it, I think we'll find out who has good correlation between what's happening on the track in real life and their simulators. Because you could put a car on track, but testing time is still limited. So you could do like some testing of previous cars, but how much is that really going to help you, because the entire car changed this season? You could do some like filming day, laps. I think we saw Ferrari out a couple times on track, but those laps are really limited. You remember that random time in preseason where everybody got really nervous about Ferrari because Lewis just stopped in the middle of the track? It was because there's a mileage limit, and if you go over it, it's bad. So he just had to stop and be like, "Oh, I'm done." Now, could Ferrari have done the calculation better to get it so it didn't look like the thing broke down? Probably, but they didn't. So there are still limitations on testing, but I'm really excited and interested to see who's like tools that they've been using behind the scenes in terms of their simulators and everything else, how they've been able to use the brake to make their car better. I think some teams might be able to do that, and some teams may dig themselves in a deeper hole. Like, again, maybe Aston Martin, because the things that they're dealing with, they really need laps out of that car to figure it out. And they also need Honda to have time to figure out the engine problems. And that's really hard to do, even in 1 month's worth of time. These engines are developed over months, sometimes years. And so it's not a quick fix that they're going to have to go through, but incrementally, can they be, instead of a minute behind, can they be 45 seconds behind? Can they make any sort of progress, whatever progress looks like to them relative? So I'm very interested to see where we're at now that teams have had a minute to settle down, process whatever data they got from the first races, and figure out a direction to go for the rest of the season. That's going to be interesting.
I saw that Red Bull brought their own version of the rotisserie wing or the Macarena wing, a Ferrari's wing. And so
those cheaters.
I'm interested to see now which of those two teams will actually be the first to use it in like under race conditions, because they've only tested it so far or done practice. But yeah, no one's used it because of reliability.
Ferrari trimmed their wing as well, because I think you remember when Lewis had that spin out. I think it just took too long to like close the airflow when it flipped back around. And so I think I saw that they trimmed the wing as well to try and figure out how to best utilize it in a race so that you don't have that weird, like it's like a fraction of a second, but the airflow gets disturbed and twisted in that fraction of a second, and you're turning the wheel or braking harder or whatever, it's going to unsettle the car, and then it turns, and it's hard to control that for anybody when it's going as fast as they're going. So that's going to be interesting too.
I'm going to go through because there were changes. The FIA did make some tweaks to the regs and everything. It's very complicated, but I think I've able to explain it in a way that makes sense to everyone. So I'll just go through the big ones. One of the biggest changes is going to be in qualifying, where the maximum recharge has dropped from 8 megajoules down to 7 megajoules, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it will significantly change lap time. So they're going to be very like somewhere between 2 to 4 seconds slower in qualifying, just because it would, before people would be able to just charge and then really kind of get that big super boost. They're trying to scale that back so that way you can't charge the car as much. And also changing the number of events where there's lower energy limits. It went from 8 to 12. Again, I think it's a way so that there's trying to make it a little bit more balanced and trying to reduce the amount of time people can just harvest energy and need to harvest energy. The other big change is going to be the maximum power available through the boost in the race. It's now capped at 150 kilowatts, which pretty much means what happened with like Ollie Behrman's. This was kind of like more what the Ollie Behrman crash kind of highlighted. So what they're trying to do is reduce the amount of power that's going to be allowed for a driver to have when they hit that boost button. So they'll still have the power from the MGUK that's already there, but instead of having it even higher, it's now capped at an extra 150 kilowatts. Again, most of this is because to reduce the closing speed, like what we saw with Ollie Behrman's crash, is trying to prevent that from happening again. They changed the race starts. This one I honestly cannot understand what it's trying to do, but I think the FIA was trying to say like, yeah, we just don't want the start. So basically I think Ferrari's going to be a little bit upset about it.
Probably.
But pretty much you cannot use the MGUK, is not allowed to be deployed at a start until the car is at 50 kilometers per hour. I don't know what that is in miles per hour. I'm not going to convert it. So again, this is
like 4. So
okay. So basically changing the start process. Again, I'm sure Ferrari's going to be really the only one that's not thrilled about it. And then because it's going to rain, they're changing the wet conditions. So the tire blanket, the support tire blanket, the temperature is going to be increased for intermediate tires. So that way the tires are just warmer, allows for more grip in wet conditions. They will also be reducing the ERS and the maximum ERS that can be deployed, limiting the torque, and trying to help the car have better grip in wet conditions. And the rear lights have been simplified and have a clear, more consistent visual cue to help improve visibility reaction time. So those are kind of like the big changes, and that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. ESPN had kind of a breakdown. It's kind of nice, but just in case there's mention of new reg changes, this is what they're likely going to be talking about, mainly in qualifying, the power that can be deployed in the boost, and if it rains, the wet conditions.
Also, we talked a little bit about Mercedes' compression ratio loophole that they had found, and how the FIA had said you have 8 races to get that done. Well, if you recall, they said that, just because these 2 races are canceled doesn't mean you get to tack on 2 more races to this. Those 2 races count in this. So they only have 3 races left, of which one I believe is Monaco.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think one of them is Monaco, where this compression ratio is really not going to help them much. So,
yeah, I think this would be the last. Monaco would be the last one. if I'm correct.
Yeah. So expect them to get out fast. Expect them to be fast, but expect them to try and see how much distance they can put between themselves and the rest of the pack before that loophole closes.
Yeah, I was going to say their sandbagging might be over. They might have to do it because they're going to lose that advantage pretty soon. I didn't know that they just were like, well, those are 2 races you just lost.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Also, there was the qualifying trick that they banned from Mercedes and Red Bull. I didn't really understand this trick that they were doing. I think it was a way to charge more, to increase, like have more battery harvested. I didn't like really understand everything that was going on with this trick, but anyway, they banned it. And I think qualifying is important, the changes, because as much as I've been defiant, and I think a lot of us have been like, the regs are fine, like tweak them, refine them. All the like premature nonsense from all the people have been a little bit ridiculous, especially talking about artificial overtakes, which is like, that's what DRS has been for years anyway. So like all of that stuff has been frustrating, but the one glaring problem they did have was qualifying. Like cars were not going flat out in qualifying, and qualifying sometimes is like a really fun event, especially once the pack closes up and those like within a tenth of a second or even a hundredth or a thousandth of a second, you're seeing differences between the cars. And we won't get there this season probably because of all the things that teams have to get right and try to optimize these new regs. But when you have a driver who's as good at like one lap qualifying as Leclerc, and he can't really throw the car around because he's just energy limited all the time, that's a little bit frustrating to see. And I think he's been very frustrated in qualifying. And so lowering that recharge limit allows them to be able to access more of the power and maybe be off recharge a lot sooner so that they can actually maybe get closer to doing what they used to do in qualifying, which is just a flat out lap. How fast can you go? And so we'll see how that works, what that does. So I think maybe Leclerc's qualifying is probably a first thing to figure out and keep an eye on. Did they actually solve this problem, or is there still a little bit more to do? If he's suddenly on pole, well, damn it, they fixed it. But if he's not, just see how far down he is and what his lap looks like. Maybe even on the onboard, see, you can hear when the engine's not going, and basically it's just recharging the car. It's like it's like the car is no longer a car. It's just like a recharge unit for the battery. And you want as little of that time on a qualifying lap as possible. So listening to his onboard is going to tell us whether they got closer to fixing that problem or not. Okay, let's take a quick break and then get into our predictions. We're going to predict the podium, the constructor scrap, and we're going to tell you when you can watch everything, which will all be on Apple TV, because it's where it is now. I don't know why I kept talking. Whatever. It's a break. All right, here we go. Podium predictions. I love it. We're back. Well, this feels so good. It's been such a long time since we've been able to predict anything about an actual race. So podium prediction, first, second, and third. Deepti, who you got?
All right. André Stella had said even before this break that they are going to bring basically a whole new car to the North American races. And that means for Miami, they're going to have major upgrades. And I expect these upgrades to be really good. And like Kyle mentioned, Oscar once he starts a race, he can do really well. And so I think he's going to win this one. He's won Miami before. I think he's like hungry to win. I think he believes like even if the car is not his best, he can bring out the best in it. So I got Oscar 1. I have Kimi P2 and George P3 because it's gonna take a while before I put George above Kimi again. I think I like what I'm seeing in Kimi. And it's known that George is not my favorite, so I'm gonna put Kimi above George. However, for the sprint, you know what? Yeah, I'll just say it. I think Kimi might win sprint if we're going to go with it, if we're predicting those. I do think it's interesting, though, that I saw there was a stat that no one who's gotten pole has ever won. So I don't think Oscar's going to get pole. So that's why qualifying is going to be super interesting to see.
That is an interesting stat.
Yeah.
Did not know that. But yeah, okay. And yeah, I see Kyle did some extra credit. He did first, second, and third for the sprint race. I'm cool if you ignore the sprint race or if you just say who you think is going to win, like Deepti did. We can do whatever we want.
No, because they're keeping there are stats now being kept for sprint as well, because I got dinged for China for not putting my sprint prediction.
Oh, right.
Oh, this got real all of a sudden. Okay.
Do we need podium sprint or just winner?
But wait, is he only is for the sprint? Is he only counting the winner? Because
I think only winner.
I don't remember. I didn't see. I just remember he asked me, "Did I have a sprint prediction?" And because it was in China, I didn't give an answer in time. I was like, "Well, crap, there went my chance."
Okay. All right. Well, pressure has been applied, so we will at least all do who we think is going to win. And Kyle, being very traumatized by his experience, is going to give you a full podium. So go ahead, Kyle, your predictions.
For the sprint, I have George winning. I have Oscar second, and I have Kimmy finishing third in the sprint. And then for the main race, I have Oscar winning. Similar to what Deepti said, I think Oscar really can build on it, and I think McLaren's going to have a much better car. I have George finishing second. I could see him being on pole, but we're going to see how this Mercedes start, if he's still having issues with it, and if there's enough with the new reg changes that's going to make him difference. And I have Lewis finishing third. I think he's going to come. I think because they're kind of scaling back on things, it's going to benefit him. He's going to be able to pick up on it a lot quicker than most other drivers. So, and I think he really wants to get another podium with Ferrari after getting that first one.
All right. I like it. I would love to see Lewis on a podium. I got excited about finally seeing that. Finally. Okay, Donald, who you got?
So for the actual Grand Prix, I have Kimmy winning. I think he's on another level right now between him and George. Delulu Island, I got Lewis in second, and I have George in third in the Grand Prix. And in the sprint, you know what? Give me Oscar in the sprint to win it. I don't think it's going to be a full Mercedes sweep of the sprint and the Grand Prix. I'll say Oscar gets in there. Okay.
And let's see. I've got, since the sandbags are fully off, I've got George winning because I think he's got, I really think given him a month to stew about Kimmy becoming basically number one Mercedes driver in like no time, I think it pissed him off. So I think he's going to be like going hard until they lose that advantage, and then we'll see what happens. So yeah, I got George winning. I got Oscar second because Lando was still struggling with the car a bit. And so I think Oscar has picked up on things a little bit quicker. And so I've got him second, and I've got Charles third, mainly because I want to see three different constructors on the podium. I think we can do it. I think this is a track that can do it. And I think we have the driver car combinations to do it. So I'm excited about that. And in the sprint, I got Kimmy winning. I think he's going to win the sprint and then kind of stumble, have a bad start or something, and struggle to make up in the Grand Prix. But I think Kimmy is not going to have an overall terrible weekend, but I do think that he does not get on the podium in the Grand Prix after winning the sprint. Okay, constructor scrap. You know what, y'all? Are we at the point now where we can just ignore Aston Martin? Can we just say no? No? Okay.
We will never ignore Aston Martin.
No, we will, because at some point
maybe one more race. Maybe
we may not be. We may be banned from picking them, but we will not ignore them.
Well, we won't ignore them. That's what I mean. Is banned from picking them because for people that don't know, we would choose the constructor scrap, which is what constructor do we think is going to have the most points in the race. So basically, driver finishes, combined points, who's going to have the most, and who's going to have the least points. There are only points for the top 10, and so with Aston Martin and Cadillac being what they are at the moment, we're not really anticipating them picking up points anytime soon. And so what we've done in the past is we just ban a team. The team at the very bottom, we say you can't choose that team because that's cheating. And so I don't think we're there yet with Aston Martin. Maybe we see how it goes in Miami and then we figure it out.
I would say we can reassess after this weekend.
Yeah.
But I honestly think the banning portion would come once we get to Monaco, where they have that break before the real European portion of the schedule. Maybe that's when we decide who's getting banned at the top and at the bottom.
Okay. And looking at the doc here, I see why there are 2 votes against banning Aston Martin right now. So maybe I should have talked about this in our pre-production chat. All good. Podding on the fly, y'all. It's fine. All right. Constructor scrap. Most and least points. Kyle, who you got?
See, going into Suzuka, I thought it was going to be banned, so I made 2 completely different guesses, and then it wasn't. This time, now knowing that, I'm going Mercedes with the most and the Aston Martin with the least.
All right, fair enough. And Donald,
Mercedes, Aston Martin, yes.
Deepti, you have anything different?
Mercedes and Cadillac. Okay. They win on livery, but I am putting them bottom. There's part of me that always like has a little thing in the back of my mind that Alonso could get that into P10. Things could happen where they get a single point. But
Can I offer a wild prediction that's not with most or least? I think Cadillac gets 1 point.
I think Cadillac gets a point this time. All right, we'll see. Mm-hmm. I would say, are we including sprint points in this most and least?
Yeah,
the whole weekend.
It's the whole weekend.
So then
yes,
Mercedes.
And that's why I picked Aston Martin.
Right.
Yeah,
fair.
I didn't write mine down just yet because I've been struggling trying to figure it out. I think most points I'm going to go with McLaren because I think that if I have Oscar finishing second, Lando will maybe finish 4th or 5th. And I think Kimi will be a bit down from there and maybe Lewis will be around there too. But with Charles being 3rd on my podium, it's not enough points. So yeah, I think I'm going with McLaren for the most points. And least points, I'm going to go with Williams because they're another one. Listen, the fact that Aston Martin is such a clusterfuck works out so well for Williams.
Yeah.
Like so well for Williams because they were the first ones to shut their factory down and be like, or in 2025 and be like, all eyes are on 2026. We are hitting the ground hard. And they even got themselves close. Like they made a lot of progress throughout, and it was like, oh, okay, so Williams is serious. Like they're not developing the car anymore, but they are still doing things well enough with what they have to be able to get like climb the table a little bit. And then this year comes and they're overweight, the car is slow, Carlos Sainz is regretting his decisions to sign with them. Like it's been horrendous. And as much as I like James Vowles, my question is, buddy, what happened? Mm-hmm. How did you let this happen after like seeming so composed, like you were going to get the jump on everybody in this regulation set, and the car is just chunky and nowhere. They missed an entire testing period. Didn't even get the car on the track. It's been awful. So yeah, I got Williams least points. Okay. When to watch things. Free practice 1, Friday, 11:55 a.m. on Apple TV. Sprint qualifying, 4:25 p.m. on Apple TV. That's on Friday. Check that out. Definitely be there. Our first look at qualifying with these new regs or new tweaks to the regs are going to be interesting. The sprint race is Saturday at 11:55 a.m. So check that out. Qualifying, Saturday, 3:55 p.m. Again on Apple TV. All of this is on Apple TV. And the Grand Prix, Sunday, 3:55 p.m. on Apple TV. Check it all out. Also, by the way, just a word to the wise for people who have Apple TV and will be watching everything. I just found this out. I've been listening to, and no shade to them, like I like the old like F1 TV crew. I think they do a very good job. Sometimes they get a little bit deeper in some things. They're kind of like almost like a ball knowers kind of broadcast, which I kind of like. But there is something about missing like a big moment and having Crofty. And I know a lot of people don't like how Croft does his, poetic buildups and all of that stuff. I think it's great. I think it's like synonymous with the sport. It makes it feel really important. So I've been missing some of that. And apparently it's because Apple TV makes you scroll all the way past the onboards, all the way across to the very end. And it's like, oh, here's the Sky broadcast, just in case you want that. So check that out. I'm going to be watching that because finally I know where to find it.
Yeah, it's been up. And I know the first couple of weeks of the year, people were just up in arms about it. I will also remind people, because it's been 5 weeks since there's been a race, that if you have Apple TV, you also have free access to F1 TV, so you can watch everything on there as well. And this weekend is the first weekend of like 6, I think they're doing this, where IMAX is showing the race. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's in every city that has an IMAX. I don't think it's at every IMAX. Check your your IMAX listings for this, but there are theaters that are showing the Grand Prix in IMAX, which I will not be able to take advantage of this particular weekend, but hopefully at one of the future ones, I'll be able to do that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I might have to get to one of those this season because seeing an F1 race in IMAX might really be fun. So yeah, I might check that out. They just got to serve food because I'd be hungry. All right, that's it. That's our preview. We'll be back to review the race because we're going to get started. And then, of course, we're going to have another break, which is going to be annoying, but it'll be okay. Yes.
One more thing. Congratulations to Sebastian Vettel for completing the London Marathon, his first marathon, and he did it in under 3 hours. Which was his goal.
Just an hour off of the record.
Listen, all you got to do is buy those shoes.
Literally exactly an hour off the record.
Just get whatever shoes those dudes are wearing because I don't know. Those things got rockets in them or something. I don't understand shoe technology, but the fact that you run a sub 2 hour
that
marathon,
doesn't seem right. Or
two guys.
I don't know.
Can you imagine being one on his debut?
Right. Well, that's the funny thing, Donald. The two guys were under 2 hours. The dude who finished third still would have broken the record, but nobody cares about him because he wasn't under 2 hours anyway.
Forget all that. Can you imagine being a guy who's like, I just broke 2 hours, something that people thought would never, ever happen, and you were second.
That's what I'm
by 11 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
This feels like the Olympics, like that one, I forgot if it was in London or Beijing, where it's like Usain Bolt broke the world record, and then the two other dudes would have broken the old world record as well and got like sub time. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't matter.
And they were 0.3 of a second slower than him.
Yeah. That is, it's bonkers. I don't know what that shoe is. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know what's in it, but that is bonkers to have two guys go sub. But it is funny to be the second dude who went under 2 hours and nobody cares about you. So that is unfortunate for him. Anyway, that's it. We will be back to review the race and then we'll be back to finally get in the swing of this F1 thing because unless I shouldn't say this out loud, knowing our country and government, but unless we start bombing another country, hopefully we don't have any more interruptions in the schedule. All right, that's it. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.